right, here's our formula for slope. Let's find the slope of this line. Again, here's our formula. What you do is you find the difference of your y values of your points. Remember, that's the second number in each point. And divide that by the difference in your x values. Again, one way we describe this is as rise over run. So let's determine the slope of a line between the points -1, 0 and -2, 3. Now, if you'd like to see a picture of that, we're going from -1, 0 to -2. There's my 2 points, so I'm finding the slope of the line between those 2 points. And really what you're trying to describe is how far you go up or down and over. Since this line is pointing down, we know we're going to have a negative slope here. And as I look at the graph, I can see that I had to go down 3 and 1 to the right. Let's use the formula and see what we get for the slope. So again, when they give you 2 points, it just means you have one point, x1, y1, and the other point, x2, y2. It just means your first point and your second point. We're supposed to subtract the y's on top, so the y from this point was 3, minus the y from my first point, which was 0. That's my y's on top. The bottom, I subtract the x's, so I have -2 minus my x for my first point is -1. We go ahead and simplify that. On the top, 3 minus 0 is just 3. On the bottom, I have minus a negative here, which changes to plus, and -2 plus 1 is -1. You can see it's exactly the slope I was describing over here. We're going down 3 for every 1 we go over. That's our rise or our fall over our run. We want to go ahead and simplify that. 3 divided by -1 is -3. So the slope of this line would be -3, and we found it using the formula. We could also observe it using the graph. Let's talk about lines with undefined slope again. What would that line look like? Now let's think about, what does slope do? Remember, it tells us how steep a line is. Okay, so we would say, oh, it's kind of steep. It went up 2 steps for every 1 you went over. What would undefined mean? That would mean it has so much slope you cannot even describe it. If you were on a hill and someone asked, well, how steep was that hill? Oh, I can't even describe how steep it was. That happens when you have a perfectly vertical line. So it's going straight up and down. Okay, and that's a little wavy just because of my pen. I apologize for that. But any vertical line is undefined slope. So what does it look like? Well, it's going to be a vertical line. Okay, how do you know if the slope is undefined? Okay, well, notice for this line, it's every place where x is 3. Okay, so my x-coordinate of every point on this line is going to be 3. The y-coordinate is going to change. The equation for this line would be x equals 3, because again, every point on this line is 3 something. Another way you'll know it's undefined, I'll give you an example. Let's pick 2 points on this line. Let's say the point 3, 1 and the point 3, -4. If I were using the formula for slope to find the equation, or excuse me, the formula to find the slope of this line, there's my formula. I take the y from this point, -4, minus the y from my first point, 1. Divide that by my x is subtracted, so 3 minus 3. Notice when I simplify, I get -5 over 0. Anytime you're finding the slope and you get 0 in the bottom, you cannot divide by 0. Try it on your calculator. It will tell you that's an error. That's because you cannot have a 0 in the bottom of the fraction. So anytime you're finding the slope of a line and you get 0 in the bottom, you know it's undefined and would have to be a vertical line.